Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? This time, we're heading back to ancient China, a time of emperors and dynasties, epic battles, and political intrigue.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the transition from the Shang Dynasty to the Zhou Dynasty. And trust me, this isn't your run-of-the-mill changing of the guard.
Oh, what makes this one so special?
Well, it's all about a guy, the Duke of Zhou, who demonstrates that you don't have to be king to change the course of history.
Intriguing. A powerful figure in the shadows.
Exactly. So picture this. The Shang Dynasty, after centuries in power, is on its last legs, thanks to their last ruler, the tyrannical King Zhou.
Oh, I've heard of him. Quite the character, notorious for his cruelty and excesses.
The worst. And that's where our man, King Wu of Zhou, steps in. He seizes the opportunity. They clash at the Battle of Moy, a truly decisive victory for the Zhou, and that's the end of the Shang Dynasty. Curtain closes, right?
Not so fast, I'm guessing. There's always a but in history.
You got it. This is where things get really interesting. King Wu is now faced with a dilemma for the ages. What do you do with the remnants of a regime you've just toppled? It's about power dynamics, for sure, but also morality and how to ensure things don't just fall apart again.
It's a timeless question.
Yeah.
How do you build lasting peace and stability after conflict? Brutal suppression. Integration. What was the approach back then?
Well, King Wu got some interesting advice, to say the least. One advisor, Jiang Ziya, basically says, wipe him out. Anyone associated with the Shang, gone. Thankfully, King Wu wasn't about to go down that road.
That's quite a bloodthirsty approach. And understandable, I suppose, given the times, but wiping out a whole segment of society, that's bound to backfire.
Exactly, and it could have plunged the region into chaos. But luckily, there was another voice at the table, our guy, the Duke of Zhou.
So what did he suggest?
He presented a radical idea. Integrate the Shang rather than eliminate them. Let them keep their lands, appoint officials from within their ranks, and even continue their ancestral rituals.
Wow. A complete 180 from the wipe them out strategy. That's incredibly forward-thinking, especially for that era. What was the thinking behind that?
It was all about winning hearts and minds, not just territory. The Duke understood that true power wasn't just about military might, but about bringing people together.
That makes sense. Unity, even in the face of past conflicts, is key for long-term stability.
Right. And this approach, what we now call the United Front strategy, has had huge implications throughout history.
So the Duke of Zhou was essentially advocating for a more inclusive approach to governance.
Exactly. He understood that a diverse and unified realm would ultimately be a stronger one.
And that, my friends, is often the mark of a truly brilliant leader, seeing the value in unity and finding ways to bridge divides, even ancient ones.
So the Zhou Dynasty is off to a good start, thanks in no small part to the Duke's wisdom. But of course, things are never that simple, are they?
Unfortunately not. Life, even for ancient Chinese rulers, is rarely a smooth ride.
You got that right. As King Wu is consolidating power, his health takes a turn for the worse. I mean, I guess leading a revolution can take its toll, right?
Absolutely. It's a high-stress job, even today.
Yeah.
And back then, the pressure and constant threat must have been immense.
And sensing that his time is running out, King Wu makes a huge request of his brother, the Duke.
Right, he sees the Duke's wisdom, his leadership. He recognizes that the Duke is the best person to guide the newly established dynasty.
So he asks the Duke to take the throne, rule in his place.
Which is a pretty big deal, right? To essentially hand over the reins of power to someone else, even if they are family.
Huge E. Can you imagine being offered absolute power and saying, no thanks, I'm good?
It speaks volumes about his character. The Duke wasn't driven by personal ambition, but by a deeper sense of duty and loyalty.
Totally. And get this, there's actually a really moving prayer that the Duke makes at the ancestral temple around this time.
Yes. This prayer is amazing. It shows us the true depth of the Duke's character. He's essentially saying to the ancestors, if you need someone in the spirit realm, take me. My brother is the more deserving leader.
Wow, just chill. So he's literally putting his brother's well-being and the fate of the dynasty above his own ambitions.
Exactly. And this wasn't just a private prayer. This was a formal request documented for posterity. They found inscriptions of this prayer on ancient artifacts.
Wow, so ancestor worship was serious business back then. But this also tells us that the Duke wanted everyone to know where his loyalties lay.
Absolutely. He was making a public declaration of his commitment to his brother and to the future of the Zhou Dynasty.
So King Wu passes away. His son, King Cheng, is just a kid. And as requested, the Duke steps in as regent to rule until Cheng comes of age.
It was a pivotal moment for the dynasty. With the right guidance, King Cheng could mature into a strong and capable ruler.
But there's some debate among historians about whether the Duke actually took on the title of king during this time.
Oh yeah, that's a fascinating debate. Centuries later, the Confucians, who revered the Duke of Zhou as this model of virtue and leadership, had a bit of a problem with this whole king thing.
Why is that?
Well, for them, the idea that he would claim the title of king while the rightful heir, even a young one, was alive, was unthinkable. It went against their whole philosophy of order and hierarchy.
So they kind of rewrote history a bit.
In a way, they suggested that he was more of a temporary king or acted with the understanding that it was a temporary arrangement.
Temporary king. I kind of like the sound of that. But it sounds like, title or no title, he was really the one calling the shot.
Oh, without a doubt. The Duke was the one guiding the kingdom, making the big decisions, and ensuring that young King Cheng was being prepared for his future role. And you know what else is interesting about the Duke?
What's that?
He wasn't some distant figure secluded in a palace, removed from the everyday lives of the people. He was renowned for his incredible work ethic. There are stories about him being so dedicated that he'd spit out his food mid-meal if an urgent matter arose.
Spitting out his food. Okay, I need to hear more about this.
Picture this. The Duke is sitting down for a meal, probably already cold because he's so busy, and suddenly someone rushes in with urgent news, some crisis that needs his immediate attention. This man doesn't even finish chewing. He's like, all right, what's going on? Talk about commitment.
That's amazing. You're saying this was a regular occurrence.
Apparently. And it wasn't just meals. There are accounts of him rushing out, hair still wet from bathing, to deal with some emergency. This was a man who understood that leadership meant always being available, always putting the needs of his people first.
Wow, no wonder people loved him. But with all that popularity, all that influence, you have to wonder if young King Cheng felt a little, I don't know, overshadowed.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine growing up with his uncle who's practically a living, legend-wise, powerful, beloved by everyone? Talk about a tough act to follow. And as if that wasn't enough, he's got his brother Guanshu whispering in his ear, planting seeds of doubt.
Oh no, sibling rivalry, never a good thing. What was Guanshu saying?
Basically, he's feeding King Cheng's insecurities, suggesting that the Duke is planning to usurp the throne, that he never intends to relinquish power.
So not just paranoia, things actually escalate into something more serious.
They do. And it becomes a full-blown crisis for the fledgling Zhou Dynasty.
So the Zhou Dynasty is facing an existential threat, right? I mean, this isn't just some palace intrigues. This is a full-blown rebellion.
Oh, absolutely. This is a major crisis. And to make matters worse, the rebellion is being led by some pretty powerful figures.
It's his Guanshu and his crew, right? They weren't messing around.
Not at all. We're talking Guanshu, another brother, Kai Shu, and get this, the son of the last Shang ruler, Wu Gang. They joined forces to create a formidable force aimed at overthrowing the Zhou and bringing back the Shang Dynasty.
Wow, talk about a blast from the past. It's like the ghost of the Shang Dynasty coming back to haunt them. So what does the Duke do? How does he deal with this three-headed hydra of rebellion?
Well, he doesn't panic, that's for sure. He takes charge, rallies the troops, and starts strategizing with his advisors. Remember those seasoned advisors we mentioned earlier, the ones who've seen it all? They're back in action, lending their wisdom.
So he's got the experience of his advisors, the support of the people, but still, this is a massive challenge.
It is. And here's where the Duke makes a bold move, a real gutsy decision. He decides to lead the army himself.
Whoa! So he's leaving the capital where King Cheng is, practically undefended. That's a huge risk.
It was. But the Duke knew that to crush this rebellion, his presence on the battlefield was essential. He had to rally the troops, inspire confidence, and show the rebels that the Zhou were not going down without a fight.
But back in the capital, you've got young King Cheng probably freaking out, right? His uncle, who he already has trust issues with, is away fighting a war, leaving him vulnerable.
Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster. King Cheng is convinced that his uncle has used this rebellion as an excuse to seize power for himself. We're talking pacing the floor, ripping his hair out, levels of anxiety.
Oh man, poor kid. You gotta feel for the guy. He's young, he's in way over his head, and now he's convinced his uncle is betraying him.
And that's when, in a truly serendipitous moment, something happens that changes everything. King Cheng is so agitated that he accidentally knocks over a cabinet.
Oh no. Ancient Chinese porcelain everywhere.
Not quite. This cabinet was filled with documents, confidential papers, that sort of thing.
And let me guess, the Duke's prayer was in there?
Bingo. The very one where he offers his life for his brother. Talk about a timely discovery. It's like something out of a movie.
Seriously, so what's King Cheng's reaction?
Pure relief. It's a real aha moment for him. He realizes that he's misjudged his uncle, that the Duke's loyalty has always been genuine, the weight of suspicion lifts, and their relationship is forever changed.
Talk about a plot twist. So the prayer not only reveals the Duke's heart, but ends up saving the dynasty in a way.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of honesty, integrity, and maybe a little bit of luck. But this isn't the end of the story. The rebellion is still raging, and the Duke is out there, risking his life for his brother and the future of the Zhou Dynasty.
You're right. So with renewed trust in their hearts, the Zhou forces fight even harder, eventually crushing the rebellion and securing their rule.
Exactly. The rebellion of the three overseers, as it came to be known, was a close call, but it ultimately solidified the Zhou Dynasty's grip on power.
But the Duke, he doesn't just rest on his laurels, does he? I mean, the guy's a workaholic, always thinking about the next challenge.
You're right about that. Once the rebellion is put down, he launches what's known as the Eastern Campaign to bring those territories firmly under Zhou control. But it wasn't just about military force. The Duke also understood the importance of winning hearts and minds.
Classic Duke of Zhou. So military genius, political strategist, champion of unity. This guy really could do it all.
He could. He understood that true power wasn't just about controlling land, but about establishing order, building a shared culture, and creating a system that would stand the test of time.
And that's where his legacy gets really interesting, right? He doesn't just win battles, he lays the foundation for a dynasty that lasts for centuries.
Absolutely. He introduces things like the feudal clan system, a way to divide and govern the vast territories under Zhou control, and develops this intricate system of rituals and ceremonies.
Rituals and ceremonies, like what?
Everything. From who gets to wear what hat at court to how many musicians you could have at a banquet. It sounds a little fussy to us maybe, but these rituals played a vital role in unifying the realm.
So like a set of social rules, a code of conduct that everyone understood.
Precisely. And they weren't just empty gestures. These rituals reinforced the power structure, emphasized social harmony, and created a sense of order and continuity.
It's fascinating how such seemingly small details can have such a big impact on the course of history.
Isn't it? And the Duke's influence on Chinese culture is still felt today. Think about things like Confucianism, the importance of family and tradition. These ideas have roots in the Zhou Dynasty and the vision of the Duke of Zhou.
Wow. And to think, none of this might have happened if he had just said yes to becoming king. Instead, he chose a different path, one that ultimately shaped the destiny of a nation.
It's a powerful reminder that true leadership isn't about titles or power grabs. It's about vision, integrity, and an unwavering dedication to something larger than yourself.
Absolutely. The Duke of Zhou's story is a testament to the power of one person to make a difference, not through brute force, but through wisdom, compassion, and an unyielding belief in a brighter future. And that, my friends, is something worth reflecting on.
Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this incredible deep dive into ancient China and the remarkable legacy of the Duke of Zhou. Join us next time as we unearth more fascinating stories from the annals of history. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious.